Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to lesson 10 of the MyListing course, Recreating the Canvas Starter Site. In this lesson, we are going to look at the MyListing features and the various settings. Okay. As a quick recap to the previous lesson, lesson 9, we went over all things WooCommerce. So running through all of the available features, the settings, talking about best practices and getting a solid foundation set up on the WooCommerce side of things, which is a required component to run MyListing websites. That is the WooCommerce plugin. Okay. All right. So we're just going to dive in here and look at the theme tools, everything that's under the theme tools option. And my mouse is being wonky. Of course, at like the most inappropriate time. Let me quickly do something with my mouse battery to bring it back to life. Joy of raw, unedited videos. Okay, so again, we're going to look at everything under theme tools, whether it's the theme options, performance, listing stats, map services, user roles, direct messages, social login, and then the listing settings, the general settings, claim listings, notifications, etc., and then whatever's under the WooCommerce customizer there. Okay. Again, this is as it relates to the Canvas starter site and recreating the Canvas starter site. This is not getting super far into the weeds into all of this stuff. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started here. I've got where we've left off with the project, the MyListing project template. As we can see, we're in the MyListing column. And one of the things that's right off the bat is we see this MyListing worksheets. When I do a project for myself or for clients, I would have given them this task at the near the very beginning. Get them working on, or myself even, start working on these worksheets. Okay, these takes a bit of time to complete, to digest, to think through, but they will save a ton of time in the end if people go through these. Okay, so like I said, I would have given these. This task and these subtasks for these worksheets a long time ago to be in progress as we work through the other stuff, right? So because of that, we're not going to get into the worksheets right now in this video. It's not part of this video. So I'm just going to move this all the way to the bottom here, and then I'll think about where that's going to fall in. Okay, so going back to the top, like I said, we're going to work through all the theme options. Look at the preview card settings, all at a surface level. What I mean by that is without diving into the listing types and all of that yet, we're just looking at the settings available to us that MyListing gives us. Okay, so I don't even think I need to look at these cards. I think we can just do it all here in the dashboard by memory. All right. So let's go ahead and dive in. We'll just run through this top to bottom so we make sure we don't miss anything. Now, I've got Canvas pulled up on my other screen in case I need to reference something, but should be able to do this from memory. All right. So from the WordPress dashboard, we go to theme tools and theme options. First up, we have the general tab. And for the Canvas starter site, we are just using a text-based logo. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at the front end here. This is the text-based logo. We will make that look better later, but this is pulling from the WordPress settings, the site information. So WordPress settings and then general is where that's pulling from. Okay, so whatever we set here as the site title. And with a little bit of CSS, very little CSS, you can make this text-based logo look great. It's obviously going to be more performant than an image-based option. And it has a couple other features too. When you start talking about lazy loading and getting into things like that, if you don't have a logo right here off the top, it opens an image-based logo right off the top. It opens up a little bit of doors, a little flexibility of what you can do with lazy loading stuff. I won't get into the weeds into that, but something to think about. A lot of times people just jump right to, hey, I need a logo. They think image-based, and that's all they think about. I just try to get people to think about it differently. All right. Check out the Canvas starter site if you want to see how this currently looks. So canvas.mylisting.club. Accent color, that is the color that MyListing uses pervasively all throughout the site. So you set this color once, it's going to be used in many, many places. As we see here, it's being applied here in the header to like our little direct messages icon there. And it'll be applied to other areas. If I go to like my account, for example, we'll see these icons here have got it, this underline here. It's just it's pervasive. It's all throughout a MyListing website. So that accent color is super, super important. So you set that, and then you set the background color of your entire site. I like to set this to white. Okay. And loading screen, I do not recommend using a loading screen because one, it adds a slight performance hit to your website. Two, I don't think it looks very professional. If you go to any professional website out there, any of the major heavy hitters, they don't use loading screens. This is, to me, is a gimmick. And another point too, if your site is slow, hopefully it's not, but if it's slow, you're just going to constantly show them this loading screen icon or whatever it is that you use. And it's just a constant reminder that flashes in front of their face. Hey, my website is slow. Please wait. It's just I just don't like it. Don't like it at all. Login and register page background. If you are not using what we are using for this Canvas starter site, which is a completely custom login registration experience, then you can add an image here and it will be applied for the login screen. Let me see if I can pull that up here. Let me try a different browser. Here we go. So if we do online directory club, so this is viewing the site as a visitor. And if we were to go to sign in here, we see that we're using something custom. But you can imagine if you're not doing that and you're just using what MyListing gives you out of the box, whatever you set here for this login register page background is going to show right here, okay, in this area. It's going to look similar to this. You just won't have all of the functionality that you get with the custom login experience that we've created for Canvas. Okay, next up is lightbox options. Lightbox options for images that use the themes lightbox. So you can set, if you want to set it as a title, show the title, the description, captions, or the alt text. And then for the description of the image, you've got the same images there. So this is things like when you're looking at a listing and there's like a gallery grid or a gallery, we'll just call it an image gallery or whatever, or an image and it's lightbox enabled. If they click on that, then these are the options that you can display there. Okay. I don't set any of those. We'll go ahead and update our changes here. So the only thing that I set here for Canvas is the accent color and the background color, and that's it. Under header, because we are using the MyListing header, which is really, really good out of the box, we have some things to set here. I roll with a normal header height. Header text color, I use light because we're going to use a dark background and we need that text to show up, obviously. I go with full width header width. For the header background, I went with just black. And for the header border color, I went with just black. Sticky header on scroll, I leave that enabled. So you scroll down the page, if a user scrolls down the page, that header will continue to be visible. Main menu location, I set that to the right-hand side. Logo height, I leave all of these as the default settings. So whether it's desktop, tablet, or mobile, I choose to show the search form. And for the placeholder text, so this is what's going to show in the search form, I just leave type your search, which is keeping the default. Search form featured categories. If you want to limit the categories that appear in the initial search form focus, you can specify those. So if you have any categories that are really prominent, you want them to stand out, you can do that. I do not do that. At least I haven't done it on this site. Similar with the listing type, select types of listings you want to display in quick search. This is a global option for all instances of quick search. Leave empty to show all, so I just leave that empty. Show call to action button. Yes, we want to do that. So that's typically on a MyListing website, you see the call to action button that says like add listing or something similar to that. For that action link, I link to a page called the Get Started page. Okay. I think we will just leave that for now. Shoot, we're going to forget it. You know what I'll do? This is what we'll do. We'll add a new page here, just so I don't forget. We'll call it Get Started, and we will publish it. And let's go back here and save our changes. All right, so let's set that call to action links page to Get Started. I miss it. There we go. So what that's going to do for us is bring us to a landing page rather than just throwing people into the ad listing, what I call the ad listing flow, where they get completely lost. They have no idea what the pricing is, what features are in the listings. It's a terrible experience. So we want to get them to a landing page where they can be educated on what is what's included, see what the pricing is, all of that stuff. So that's why we do it. We create a custom Get Started page. Call to action button label. We don't want to call this ad listing at this point. We want to call this Get Started. All right. Show cart. Yeah, we want to show the cart in the header. For the site, show title bar below header. We do not want to do that. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do that, but definitely not doing that. So check it out and see if it's something you want. I just don't like it. On scroll logo, again, we're just using a text-based logo, so we don't even need to configure this. The only thing we're going to change is the header color on scroll, and for that we're going to use our accent color. So by default, the header is going to have a black background, okay? And when someone scrolls, they're going to get your accent color as the background. So we're going to change the background and the border to match and save our changes. Next up, if you've watched the previous videos, I do not do anything with the MyListing footer. We've already created a custom footer, as we see here. Okay, so nothing else to do here. We already took care of that in another video. But if you're not using Elementor Pro to create custom footers, which you absolutely should do, you should do it. Just definitely do it. But for some reason you're not, then you need to go in here and configure the stuff. You obviously need to show the footer, set your background color, choose which widgets you want to show, optionally show a footer menu, and then for the footer text, maybe put some copyright information in here. Like I said, we're not doing any of that. I don't recommend doing any of this for the reasons I stated in the other video. So we're going to move on to the Explore page. And for this, we need to set what page is our default Explore page. We don't have one at the moment, so we're going to go ahead and create that as well. Okay, so we've selected our Explore page. Listings per page. How many listings do you want to show at once per search? This comes down to preference as well as performance. If you are on a slow server and you set this to a high value, it could be a really poor experience. So I don't know why. I've just always put 99 here. No real rhyme or reason. It's just something I've always done, and I just continue to do it until there's a reason to change it. So nothing special there. Do what you want, test it out for you, see what works for you. The default add listing page. So that is a core page of MyListing. We need to add that page as well. I just call it add listing and publish it. Select it here, and we'll save our changes. Okay, moving on down, single listing. So this is going to configure how the top, this mainly configures the top, I think entirely actually, the entire, well, there's a couple things here. The main thing this thing styles is the header area, the header area of the actual listing, okay? Header height, I just go with normal. Header text color, light. Header background color, again, we do black, and then border, just solid black. Okay, header width, we're going to keep it full width. Header preset, we're going to keep it transparent. Blend header with the cover section, we're going to just keep that as the default, yes. Cover image height, we're going to leave it to 35. Again, this is a personal preference. Play with this if you want. Cover overlay color, we're just going to use black again. And black. This is different though. So this one's the cover overlay. So this is for the actual full listing. The listing preview overlay color, that applies to the listing preview cards only, okay? So we're going to set that to the same color, but our opacity we want to change. We're going to do a 0.2 opacity and 0.2. So what that means is we're only going to show 20% of that color, and then the rest is, it's just transparent. Okay, so that is that. We're going to save. And moving over to blog. I never touch this setting. This is kind of like the footer. Don't ever use this. In my opinion, use Elementor to configure everything related to your blog, your single post, archives, all of that. I would not touch this here. The only reason I would touch this though is, if you're not going to, the featured image. This is kind of a cool little perk, I guess, where you can assign a default post image, so like your featured image if you're doing posts. Totally up to you what you want to do there. I typically just skip this and do the featured images a different way. Moving over to custom code. Again, this is another one of those areas. Never, never, never put code here, period. End of story. I don't care what it is. Don't put code here. The reason is, there's so many reasons. One, whatever you put here in this CSS area is going to load on every single page of your website. The other thing too is if you're writing code, there's no autocomplete here. It doesn't help you write anything. There's no error checking. It's just really bad. So whatever code you put in here, if you can trust it if it comes from me in the club, you can just copy and paste it in here. But even then, I wouldn't do it because it's going to load on every page, right? There's no formatting in here. There's just so many reasons not to do it. And similar reasons for over here. There's no error checking. What if you do something wrong? There's no formatting. It doesn't help. This area doesn't help you write code, so it doesn't autocomplete anything. You can't use color variables. It's just do not use this area. I am a huge proponent of WP Codebox. So that's right here. That is included and licensed with all starter sites. This is adding code to your site on steroids. If it doesn't have to be WP Codebox. This is one of those things. I rarely ever say this. This is the best code editor on the planet. Ask anyone out there that codes for a living if they had to use or want to use a code editor to add code to their website. This is the solution. They're a partner. Absolutely. I believe in it. I use it on literally every website. Don't use it if you don't want to. I am telling you, it will change your life. It is amazing. Otherwise, if you opt out of WP Codebox for whatever reason, find the next best code editor out there. Just make sure you choose wisely. Make sure that it's being, people aren't just trying to get you into their ecosystem so they can sell you other products, right? Really look at the feature set, really look at the development cycle, see if how their support is before you go down that road, and find out what your needs are and find a solution that really meets those needs. If you don't want to follow my lead to WP Codebox, that is 1000% fine. Find something that is another solution that is quality, that is going to work for you. But check out those WP Codebox videos that I've done. Check out their website. Research them. You'll see how awesome that solution is. But bottom line, do not add code to this area. Okay. And while we're at it, if someone tells you to add code to your child theme functions PHP, again, I would warn against, do not do that. Okay. Unless you really know what you're doing. But even then, use something like WP Codebox instead. Shop page. I never use this. Again, Elementor Pro, set up your shop page, set up your product archive, set up your single products, do everything in Elementor Pro. This is just going to set you up to look unprofessional and frustrate you. So I would skip this as well. Typography, this is over in the customizer. I covered this in another video. We will quickly cover this again. I do all of my typography over in WP Codebox and Elementor. So anything that has to do with typography, that's where it's done. I do not get in here and change anything. So once you get in here, the only thing related to my listing in here is typography. So if you are not good with CSS, and if a MyListing widget or area of the MyListing website does not provide a way to do typography, then yes, use this section if you need to, okay? Because it will help you get around those limitations. But if you're any good with CSS, or the widget itself provides a way to change some of these settings, the fonts, the font weights, the colors, do it that way instead of here. And I'm not going to cover it again in this video, but I've already gone over why I do not set anything here, or I try to avoid it at all costs. Customizer was the way to do things back in the day. WordPress pushed for that and pushed for that. That is no longer the case. I wish this would change and there was better typography direction, but for now, I recommend skipping that. Share modal, this is where you decide what gets shown when someone is viewing a listing and they click the share quick action or whatever else is on there. They've added to their listing in order to get this share thing to pop up, right? There's other ways to do it besides the share quick action, but that is the most common. You can decide which networks here you want to show. The more that you show, the harder it is to design something that looks responsive, unless you are good with CSS and coding. Just be aware of that. If you just go in here and you just default to checking everything, or even if you don't select, by default, everything's going to show. So all of these are going to show. I recommend picking only the select ones that you absolutely want to show. Okay. When I did this for Canvas, I did just so I could show that a lot of them on the screen and design for that in case someone did come in here and want to use all or most of these. I did select all except for V Kentucky. I don't even know what the hell that thing is. Yeah, I don't even know what the hell that thing is, but I definitely don't use it. I've never seen anybody use it that I've ever worked on a project with. So I just turn those on. But again, real quick, only turn on what you absolutely need here. I just turned on a lot of them to show people the design that could be done when you have a lot of these or most of these selected, okay? All right, so that is that. Moving on, we're gonna go to performance now. By default, MyListing will not enable preview card caching. That is absolutely fine. I recommend not even turning this on until your site is ready to launch. Otherwise, you're going to be constantly fighting the need to regenerate the cache to see your changes. We will cover this, enabling this later on. Under other settings, I like to set this to the 600 by auto. So the reason for that is the background image don't, like by the default setting here. So let's go to the default setting here. What was that? Let's refresh. You don't need them to be at this size. It's overkill. This is it's not gonna amount to anything. So that's why I set it to this, because it's just the images are they have to render that much smaller. The file size is going to be just that much smaller. You just don't need to go at the default level. Okay. How many gallery slides to load? So this is for the preview cards. Again, this is a little bit more complex. I typically just roll with 3 unless I hear a client say differently. Even on my own sites, like I will leave it as 3. So when they look at those preview cards, there'll be like a little gallery arrow left and right where they can quickly toggle through the images. You got to think about performance when you do this. Like obviously, if you load a ton of image images in the gallery, then you got to think about performance. You got to think about lazy loading, how that's going to work, if it's going to work, how you're going to optimize all those images, things of that nature. You got to be cognizant of that. Another thing to think about is, think about how you interact with websites that have, Airbnbs of the world or whatever, and think about how you interact with images that are part of a preview, right? Do you sit and scroll through 50 images? Do you scroll through 10 before you actually want to go in and look at the listing? Or do you just skip those altogether and go straight to the full listing to see those full images? Think about how you use sites like that when you select the number here, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and save the changes here. Data updates. When you build a MyListing site and you get started, obviously as we are from scratch, this is what you're gonna see here. And a lot of people don't know what to do here. I wish MyListing approached this differently. I wish they actually just automated this, to be honest, somehow, some way. But it is what it is, and a lot of people don't know about this. But you have to click done here. And once you do that, then it's going to unlock all of this stuff and tell you the situation that you're in. And you'll see here that some of these are lit up green, but you have the option to update term counts. Recount the number of listing each term belongs to. Okay, that's interesting because if we look at our listing categories, our listing regions, again, we haven't set anything here. So there's no categories, there's no regions, there's no tags. So why do we have to update our term counts? See what I'm saying? It's just a weird thing that's going on there. And I wish it was just automated. I wish as soon as you clicked, wish there was a different button, a different call to action, like run all the updates now or something like that. And it just runs through everything, right? I don't know why we have to do this. Oh, and anyway, there you go. All of those are green now. Let's move over to listing stats. And I'm looking over on Canvas and I'm just making sure that I ran those. I'm 99.9%. Yeah, those are good. Okay, listing stats. I typically roll with, I leave the cache stats there until you have a good reason to change it. With the delete stats older than, set how long visit stats will be saved in the database. This is done to avoid database bloat and performance hits as well. So I usually set this so there's a bit more of a history. I like to set this to 183. So 6 months. Moving on down here. There's some things in here that you do not, in my opinion, need to save in your database. You don't need to add this extra load on your environment. So I disable refers, platforms, devices, countries, and browsers. And the reason is a lot of times people are going to have other analytics solutions running to capture this information. Okay. That's one. You don't want to double all of this stuff up. The other thing too is that this is what's going to be shown to listing owners. So if I go here, I don't have a listing to show you, but if I had a listing to show you, this is what's going to be shown to the listing owner. And another reason I don't capture this for the listings, for the listing owners, and I only capture it with like analytics where it is stuff that I can act on myself as the business owner. Showing a listing owner, which platforms people are viewing their listings on, it doesn't help. Showing them which devices that their listings are viewed on, it doesn't help because they cannot do anything about that information. That does not help them in any fashion. Okay, you are the website owner. You control how responsive your site is, how it looks, how you're marketing it. All of those things. None of this stuff helps the listing owners. These other ones help the listing owners, and that's why they're enabled. So keep this stuff from being in your database by unchecking those options. All right. For the My Listings page, I roll with all four of those enabled, the default options. Down here for the visits charts, I roll with all the defaults except I disable the last 12 months. Okay. So again, looking back up here, we delete stats older than days. Okay, so we're going to keep a history, 6 months. Anything older than 6 months, let's start to delete that information. And then we're correlating that down here with our categories. Let's show our last 6 months. Okay, moving on down to the color palette. For this site, I set all of these to black because I use CSS to adjust this later. Oh, actually, you know what? I didn't on this particular site. I take that back. I didn't. I just set these to black. And then I set the unique views to stand out. And I made this our accent color. You'll see all this later, and you'll see why I chose to do this. Part of my approach for this particular site was to be very unopinionated and just let people use their imagination. And it's more of a canvas. It's more of a blank canvas, keeping things nice and clean and unopinionated. So the customers or my clients that use these starter sites, can visualize their own stuff, there and not be persuaded one way or another. So that's part of the approach there. We'll see that again. You'll see the color palette later. In the past, I think I have a video on it or whatever, but I've ran through like how I typically set these as different shades of the accent color. That works really well too, but that would be for you to decide, the starter site customer or my client that's using the starter site. That would be for you to decide what these colors are there, okay? All right, so that takes care of the listing stats. Let's move over to map services. Map services are going to allow you to display a map, driving directions, things of that nature throughout various areas of your MyListing website, whether it's like an explore page, on the single listings, and so on and so forth. I use Mapbox for this for various reasons. It's just my preferred platform for doing this. So I've put in the API key that we can use for this. For the language, I just go with the default. So I let the browser detect what language to show all this stuff in. For this site, for autocomplete returns, I just left this blank so it returns everything. And autocomplete returns results in, so this is like location. I just left that blank too. For a custom map style, I did create a custom map in Mapbox. Mapbox makes it super easy to create a custom map style. So I created one that matches the branding of the site with blues, grays, blacks. So I'm pasting that in here. I've got guides on how to do all of this and videos if you guys want to check that out. Okay, so I do that and I save settings. Moving on down to user roles. For this, I typically see clients messing with this. I didn't mess with this for the starter site because, again, more of a blank slate. Let the customer, the client of the starter sites, make those decisions. The only thing that I did add here is I added the about yourself and the profile picture and social networks. Okay, so those are the fields that are part of the registration form. So when they go to register, then they can choose that information. Okay, I think that's it there. So I roll with the default up here. Some of this information is pulling from WooCommerce. I covered this in the previous video. We want to generate the usernames automatically and generate the passwords automatically. Watch that video if you want to understand why I choose those. Default account type is customer. I do not recommend you use reCAPTCHA anywhere, ever. Instead, look at Cloudflare Turnstile. It is a free solution. Cloudflare is free. Cloudflare Turnstile is free. There is it's called a simple Cloudflare Turnstile plugin that's available in the repository. It's from Elliot Soursby, so that's the one you want to look for. It's super easy to configure. Again, 100% free solution. Do not use reCAPTCHA anywhere. Save my changes here. Direct messages. This is a big one. All right. Let me get to my stuff here on my other screen. So by default, as we can tell, enable direct messages is enabled and enable compose messages. And I just, I roll with the maximum message length until there's a reason to change that. But this is something to be cognizant of. This is enabled by default, and here's my thing. Do not use this unless you use the MyListing Club's add-on for this, the Direct Messaging Admin Center. This is not my attempt to sell you to sell this product. It's a warning, okay, for you guys. If you do not use that plugin from the club, that add-on from the club, you're going to have all kinds of like database bloat. You're not going to be able to govern anything. You're not going to be able to set rules. You're not going to be able to monitor anything. It's literally the wild, wild west. And there's privacy concerns. There's all kinds of things that people aren't aware of. In my opinion, MyListing should disable this by default. That's my opinion. It's just too risky to enable something like this by default unless they enhance it, unless they find ways to allow governance, privacy controls, monitoring, things of that nature. This should be off by default, in my opinion. They're not going to listen to me. That's fine. I've stated my case on that. But let's say we're going to roll with this. We want to put in the direct messaging add-on for MyListing, and we are going to do that. We'll do that later. Okay. Social login. I skipped this because I now use a completely custom login registration experience for MyListing. And I've covered that in this course in a previous video, and I've got guides and videos out there for it. So I don't set anything here. We're going to set this elsewhere. Under other, I use WooCommerce product vendors, and which is included with every starter site, the latest version. It's set up for you. I teach you how to use it to set up a multi-vendor marketplace within your listings. That sort of thing. So this simple products is not needed in that case. So we move on. Shortcodes, there's nothing really to set here. This is just to help you configure things on your website. Like if you want to insert an icon into your menus, if you want to drop quick search somewhere, if you want to drop a search form somewhere, a button, things like that. This is where you would do that. Nothing to configure here. Demo import, I'm not even going to click on it. Not going to hurt anything. As I've stated in a recent video, obviously we're not doing that here because we're building demo sites on steroids. We're not messing with the default MyListing demos. They are great, in my opinion, to learn from. They are not for production. They are not for live websites. They are like what I see a lot of times is people will install the demos. They get lost. They don't know how to style them. They don't. It's a bad experience for a lot of people. Another thing, I'll just make a bold statement, which I made in that video a reference to. If you're installing the MyListing demo on anything other than a testing environment, staging environment, whatever, you have a hobby. You do not have a business. Okay? I'll state that one more time. If you install the MyListing demos into a production live website and start building, you have a hobby. You do not have a business. It's more of an approach, a mindset. It's not literally because the demos are not good or not going to get you there eventually. They take some work, right? It's more of the mindset. Hey, I bought this theme for, I don't know, what is it selling for now? $69, $59 on ThemeForest. I can install this demo and off and running I go, and I'm going to have a business and I'm going to make money and all of this. No, it's not going to work. You have a hobby, you have a business with that mindset. Okay. You have to invest, in the business. And that means not installing the demo, tinkering around, moving some stuff around, diving right into configuring things with not understanding how things work and how to bring it all together, how to make your site responsive, accessible, and all, and all of those things. It's a mindset. It's not a dig at the demos entirely. It's a mindset. Okay. And then last step here in this section, we've got the documentation. Good on them for opening that in a new tab. But if you want to look at some of their documentation, you can do that. And that's directly from the MyListing developers. All right, so there's that. Next up is we'll look at listings and settings. So this is kind of buried here. Let me see what else is in here. So we've got, so this is where you're going to see your listings. This is where you can add a listing from the back end. This is where you can start to set up your taxonomies. So categories, regions, tags. Taxonomies is where you set up custom taxonomies. Claim entries, if anybody is trying to claim a listing, there'll be some entries in there for you to review. And reports is like if somebody reports a listing as showing vulgar information or nudity or something, whatever. That's where those reports would be listed. It's for you to take action on. But what we're looking at here in this video is settings. Okay, so just one more screen to get through. From the top, enable paid listings. Pretty self-explanatory. If all of your listings are going to be free, then toggle that off. You don't need to get into the weeds with any of that stuff, with payments and all that. That's fine if that's what your business is doing. More often than not, we're going to keep paid listings enabled. Require admin approval of all new listing submissions. Yes, we leave that on. Allow editing of pending listings. I leave that off. A lot of this stuff is personal preference. Totally up to you there. So what this is saying is, so allow editing of pending listings. If somebody submits a listing and you have a notification that there's a listing pending, you need to review it, and then they can go in and start editing again. It's just, there can be overlap. You could be reviewing the listing while they're making additional changes, and it can just get a little convoluted. That's why I like to leave that disabled. Allow editing of published listings. Yeah, obviously we want to do that. Listing duration. This only applies if you're using the default MyListing listing packages, which is their default WooCommerce product. If you're using WooCommerce subscriptions and listing subscription packages, which we will be doing in this site, which I recommend doing on pretty much every MyListing website, you can leave this listing duration as is. The setting doesn't have any impact on your site whatsoever. As long as a subscription is being paid for, that listing is going to stay up. Listing duration is not a thing at that point. If you're going to use the default listing packages, then you absolutely need to pay attention to this setting because you're going to have a bit of a headache on your hands with listings expiring in 30 days. Okay, you got to really think this through. That's why listing subscriptions are far superior. All right. Claim listings. I just leave all of these by default. I allow listing owners to claim listings. Require admin approval of all new claim submissions. Yes, we want to do that. Mark claim listings as verified. I leave that as the default. Those are personal preferences if you want to change that. Okay, we need a claim listing page. This is another one of those core pages that MyListing needs. So let's add new. You can call this can be whatever you want. I'm just going to call it claim listing. Let's go back to our changes here and save our changes, which also refreshes the page. We're now going to choose that claim listing page that we just created. Down here for notifications, I just leave all of these on by default, and then you can fine tune these if you want based on your own preferences. But for the starter site, I leave these all on. Down here in the bottom, we have reCAPTCHA. Again, I do not recommend you use reCAPTCHA anywhere. Use Cloudflare Turnstile. It's free. Use it everywhere instead of reCAPTCHA. For privacy reasons, performance reasons, less friction for your customers when interacting with your website, things of that nature. Just do not use reCAPTCHA. And yeah, I think that's going to do it here. Let me quickly run through here and see if I missed anything. Did all that. We did all that. Yep. Okay. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.